Hello, welcome back to German with Jenny. Yep, just gave it that title. Last week we looked at subordinated clauses, and this week I really want to tackle in my mind relative pronouns because it's something I am historically terrible at, and will tend to do this and blah, 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 so no one can hear the mistakes that I'm making. I wanted to understand in English first, so let's take a look at some English relative clauses. So a main clause, a main sentence could be, my mum sits on the sofa. Shout out to you, mum. But if we want to put a relative clause, we could say, my mum, who is an absolute legend, sits on the sofa. So you see the main clause works on its own, but the relative clause, who is an absolute legend, that's giving us a bit more information. That's telling us about the noun, the thing, my mum. But we don't just have to do it about a person, we can also do it about an object. So we have my hoodie here, we could say, this hoodie, which is actually my other half's, is lying on the bed. I do have someone in my life. We could also use that in English as well. So you could say, the notepad that I recently bought is really small. Now the word who, that and which we would call relative pronouns, my friend, which is where it finally clicked in my head. So we use those in English. We use it so we don't have to keep going back on ourselves and saying, my mum sits on the sofa.
What?
My mum is an absolute legend. My mum loves to go out shopping.
Das stimmt nicht.
My mum really doesn't like it when I'm off ill for school.
Schul, jetzt!
Do you see the point? So now we've got an understanding of relative clauses and relative pronouns in English. Let's try and tackle it auf Deutsch. We need a few things handy. We need a brand new grammar table. Yay! We also need to remember that the verb always gets squashed to the end, and we need to really be detectives and look out for the cases. My least favourite part about German, because for some reason I don't know a case from a case. So, here are some examples. Wer is a nominative and it's saying who. Wen is accusative, whom. Mit wem, dative, to whom. And wesen is genitive, whose. These are questions that I've been told before to ask myself when approaching the sentences, but sometimes I find that confusing between accusative and dative, so I like to mix the sentences up a bit so I can solve it like a puzzle. But you'll see as we go into it. First of all, we need a new table for you to learn. Luckily, there are only two things to look out for that are different between the definite article and this table. The first is you can see plural dative has now changed to denen instead of den, and all of genitive has now changed desen, deren, desen, deren. And if you're trying to think of plural dative and you forget, just think of denen. You're welcome. So here are two sentences that we could make one sentence using a relative pronoun. The man lives in the house. The man has a dog. So let's make it one sentence by saying the man who has a dog lives in the house. Do you remember how we said before, my mum, who was an absolute legend, sits on the sofa? It's giving more context to the noun, and we've got rid of the two sentences. So now we've got one main clause with a relative clause jammed in there. Now we need to work out what the relative pronoun is going to be in German. We need to work out, like detectives together, what is the gender of the thing that we are adding to, the noun that we are adding to, and what is the case that that subject, that noun is in. Well, what's the noun? What's the subject? It's the man. So what gender is man in German? It's masculine, thank goodness. So der Mann, so we know it's masculine, but now we need the case. Well, the person we're talking about is the subject. So it's not that the man is a direct object or an indirect object, or he's talking about anything belonging to anyone. so it's nominative. And if we go to the table, masculine and nominative, it's the same as the definite article. So we're looking for der. Der Mann, der einen Hund hat, wohnt im Haus. Don't forget that the verb shoots off to the end of that clause, or to the comma at least. Let's go for another example. I ordered a coffee. The coffee is cold. So we don't need to repeat coffee. We want to make it one sentence for a relative clause. So you could say, the coffee that I ordered is cold. So the coffee that I ordered is cold. Let's flip it back round. I ordered a cold coffee. So where's the noun? The noun isn't the subject anymore, like in the last sentence, the man. Now the coffee is the direct object of the sentence. I ordered a cold coffee. So if we put that in German, ich habe einen kalten Kaffee bestellt. This makes it easier to identify, oh, okay, so the coffee is now in the accusative case. So if we're to go back to the table and look where this relative pronoun works, it would be masculine accusative, which would mean der Kaffee, den ich bestellt habe, ist kalt. Do you see how that works? It starts to make a lot more sense if you pull apart the sentences, which I appreciate takes time, but that's how we learn. Let's go on to an even trickier one. Yay! Jen is meeting Lisa. She gave Lisa a bicycle. Yeah, you're welcome, Lisa. Let's make it one sentence. Jen is meeting Lisa, to whom she gifted a bicycle. If you're like me and you had a blind panic about what this case is, let's go back to the original sentences in German and see if we can work it out from there. So, Jen trifft Lisa. Sie hat ihr ein Fahrrad geschenkt. Let's go back to those questions. Wer, wen, wem, wesen. Well, it's not who, because we've got two people. It's not wen, so it's to whom. She gave something to whom, to someone, to her. And in this case, we can see it is dative feminine. So in this sentence, if it's dative feminine, it's exactly the same for the relative pronoun. We just need to work out what it is. It's not ihr. Look at that table. It is der. So, Jen trifft Lisa, der sie ein Fahrrad geschenkt hat. To whom she gave the bike. So that's the question. But I find it easier to switch the sentences around because of how my brain works. But it's to whom, which is dative, and we've got dative feminine. Okay, onwards and upwards, hopefully. Sarah's smile is adorable. Sarah can sing really well. We hope so, Sarah. Let's make it one sentence. Sarah, whose smile is adorable, can sing really well. Sarah's Lächeln ist bezaubernd. Sarah kann toll singen. Now, in this context, when we had Sarah's with apostrophe S, we know that Germans don't do that. They either add an S on the end or they use the genitive case because it's possession. And that's what straight away clicked in my brain. Whose, wesen, it's genitive. Sarah, Lächeln bezaubernd ist, kann toll singen. So we're looking for genitive because we're looking for whose. And here, this is what confused me slightly. Are we looking for the smile, das Lächeln, or are we looking for Sarah, who is a woman, which would be die? What do you think? It is Sarah because the smile belongs to her. It's her smile. It's linking her twice. Remember, she has a smile, a fantastic, adorable smile, and she's also can sing. So we're looking for genitive feminine, which is deren. Sarah, deren Lächeln bezaubernd ist, kann toll singen. Sarah, whose, it's her smile. Adorable magical is can sing good, can sing well. This is just the beginning. There are also adverbs, there's welche, there's many more variations which I will try and unpick next week. I'm going to put a ton of resources down in the description box which have helped me make my own examples and copy some of theirs. Please do this yourself. There's only so much you can learn from sitting listening, but when you actually tackle the exercises, it makes a huge difference. Well, I hope that's made it slightly clearer, and next time I'm probably going to be looking at something equally as difficult and awful. Yay! See you then.